Thank you. If you're just joining us, if you're not listening to Podcast One, you must do that because Nigel Farage is on talking about the BBC and the disgraceful way that he's been treated. We'll talk to David Vance about that in a moment. But I also just asked a question. Mohammed is the most popular boy's name. Now, you won't know that if you read the mainstream newspapers or if you watch the BBC or if you listen to the lame Broadcasting Corporation. They'll say, no, it's the 10th. Well, one spelling of it is the 10th. But if you add up every spelling of the word Mohammed or the name Mohammed, it's the most popular name. And I just asked the question, is it racist to say that I'm worried about that and concerned about it? Because I am. And if I am a racist as a result of that, then I'm going to have to be guilty as charged. Because that's how I genuinely feel. And whilst we've still got freedom of speech and freedom of expression, I shall say it. 020 38 21 1234 is your telephone number if you wish to join in. Good news in Coventry or Hinckley. The man who sparked panic on a train in Hinckley has been arrested. Police evacuated the train in Hinckley, which was temporarily closed after the drama began. He threatened at 1:30 this afternoon a bomb threat. He said he was going to blow up people, so the train was evacuated by the coppers. British Transport Police also investigated a suspicious package on the train. The passengers said we just had to evacuate the site. Some man threatened to kill everyone on a train at Hinckley. Armed police everywhere. A 32-year-old man was later arrested on suspicion of communicating false information, alleging the presence of a bomb. As I was saying to you earlier, I was down in London this morning, and Liverpool Street had a bomb hoax or a bomb scare. And then I think it was Moorgate. There was 2 or 3 in the period of the couple of hours that I was in the capital today. Mind you, I don't know what I'm moaning about. Sadiq Khan says this is just part and parcel of living in a major city. Twit with an A. 020 38 29 1234. And we've got a government who didn't even tell us about the 18-year-old. Anthony, the paper to try is the Coventry Telegraph, not the Hinckley Times. Thank you. 020 38 29 1234 is your telephone number if you want to join it. Do you want to live under this constant threat of terrorism? Do you want to let in more man boys and foster them? You see, it's going to harden all our hearts, this, isn't it? And still they don't tell us the name of the 18-year-old. I'd love to get your views. Mohammed, with an A, or who cares, has booted William out of the top 10 boys' names in the UK. The news comes weeks after it was revealed the Islamic name is now the most popular overall, if all the different spellings are combined. Is this a demographic change that should concern us? Are you auditioning to get a job on Radio 4, Anthony? Let's have a talk now with broadcaster and commentator David Vance. Good afternoon, David.
Hello there, John. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. There's so much to talk about, but let's start with the name thing first. Am I being a racist or an Islamophobe saying I'm concerned that it's now the most popular name for a boy in the United Kingdom?
No, it's perfectly reasonable. And actually, John, you can't be racist because Islam isn't a race. It's a religion, or so we're told. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, you're right to be concerned. Everyone should be concerned about this because given that the Islamic community population of the UK, we're told, at any rate, is below 10%, how come that then their preference for how they call their children, their boys, Mohammed, dominates is the number one, and the ONS pumps out fake news. They should be writing to themselves to complain about their lack of honesty, because as you said, John, in the introduction, it's the variant spellings of Mohammed, whether it's with an O or whether it's with a U, doesn't matter. It's Mohammed, and it's the number one most popular name for a boy in the UK. Let people think on that. What does that mean? What it means, John, is today's demography is tomorrow's future. That's what it means. So it's another instance, another example, to my mind, John, of the UK slowly Islamifying and quietly being done, and the ONS dress it up in different clothes. More fake news from the ONS as far as I'm concerned.
Well, not just the ONS, because all of the mainstream media have just reported it in the same way. A couple of them have mentioned, if you add them up, it's Mohammed. But, I mean, it's disgraceful because, again, it doesn't spread division just to state the facts. Why do we pussyfoot around it when it's a negative towards Muslims? It just seems to me to be crazy and wrong.
Well, that's right.
And if anything, this is what will wind up the general population.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. I mean, why is the legacy media so afraid of just letting us have the facts? Are they concerned that we might take from those facts certain concerns, and that then might somewhat go against the prevailing orthodoxy that it doesn't matter how many asylum seekers or whatever you want to call them we let in from North Africa? Might it be that by giving us the facts we disrupt their narrative? I suggest, John, that's exactly what the problem is. So it's not just the ONS, it's the whole, across the piece, fake news, legacy media, which we need to call out, John.
Now, that naturally segues into the story of the attempted bombing of the Tube last week. I mean, they wouldn't tell us the name of the 18-year-old. They still haven't told us the name, and I'm almost now thinking there must be some kind of D-notice in place. We know the name. We've seen the picture of the 21-year-old suspect, and we must stress there are only suspects and 3 more people arrested today. But for what we know already, that they're foster kids, fostered by the same person, it certainly makes me think, well, were these the same crowd who came, or similar, to Croydon, to Lunatic House, where they were clearly not boys, they were men with beards? And why haven't we seen a picture of the 18-year-old? Is it because perhaps he doesn't look 18, he looks a lot bloody older? I don't know.
Well, of course, when we had these child refugees arriving in the UK last year, John, many of us did mock the fact that here these kids arrive and they've all got beards and they all sound with very deep voices and they all seem suspiciously middle-aged. And now, all these months later, we've had this incident occur where one of these alleged asylum seekers who have come here have tried to cause slaughter on the underground. Maybe, John, we need President Trump to tell us his name. Maybe it'll take the US government to publish, because the UK government seeks to keep us in the dark, doesn't it? And that's what concerned me most about since this incident happened. I feel that Amber Rudd and the rest of that crew, John, they're out to suppress information. Whereas, again, what's wrong with putting just the facts out there? Why will they not tell us? And again, I suggest it's because the facts are terribly inconvenient for a government that's gone out of its way to virtue signal the wonders of letting in as many people from North Africa as possible into the UK. And then the consequences can be measured in body bags. That's how it works, John.
Now, of course, again, that segues into the Nigel Farage story. Nigel Farage was on the programme at the top of the show today in Podcast 1, and he wants a full apology from the BBC, and rightly so. He says that because of the way they reported the death of that Polish man in Essex, that, and somebody on that report said he had blood on his hands. He says he won't pay the licence fee again until he gets his apology. Why is he not getting his apology? I mean, I've been in trouble with the broadcasting people before, with Ofcom and the rest of it, and you have to make an apology at exactly the same time as the alleged offence, and for the same duration. Why don't those rules apply to the BBC, David Vance?
Very, very fair question, and I completely agree with Nigel Farage. It's scandalous the way that particular interview was conducted and the way in which the interviewees were led to make a particular point, which was incredibly offensive to Nigel. And again, he's quite right. But your point is, John, how come the rules don't apply to the rancid BBC? And it's because the BBC considers itself above all this. The BBC will never admit that it's done wrong. But in this case, it's absolutely clear. Nigel has, in my opinion, has them banged to rights. And wouldn't it be awful, John, just for one moment, if all those perhaps millions of people in the UK who would support Nigel Farage chose to join him in what he suggested next year? Wouldn't that be a tragedy?
It is, again, another nail, surely, in the coffin of the BBC. They can't continue with this blatant bias against, because it was an insult to Nigel, but it was also an insult to every single one of us who voted Brexit. There wasn't a rising tide of anti-immigrant feeling after Brexit. It was nonsense. There was that story about the Polish man. There was the story about the Polish community centre. It turned out that it was a Pole who did it. It's just madness, this is. It's just madness.
You're absolutely right. But the BBC narrative is that anything Brexit equals evil and bad. Therefore, where they will look wherever they can find. I mean, I'm surprised they haven't blamed the Mexico City earthquake on Brexit. Everything they can find, they'll nail it down on Brexit. And that's because they are so outrageously anti the will of the British people, as expressed on the 23rd of June 2016, and that's why, John, they will grasp all these stories, and this particular one, as you say, it's an insult to the 52%, but 52% of British people is a big number, and if we all turned around and said, well, you know something, BBC, unless you start respecting us, apologise to Nigel Farage and just accept the will of the people, then you know something, we're all going to join Nigel and we won't pay our TV licences either. You're a fake broadcaster and we're calling you out. Apologise or step up and be honest.
Well, you say that, step up and be honest, but the attacks continue. And then Theresa May, there's this leak today that she's going to give 18 billion euros to the EU. Can you get your head around that one?
No, John, I mean, I know from the beginning you've been very much on the button as regards Theresa May, and whilst I initially had some hope, foolishly in retrospect, she's just another craven Remainer as far as I'm concerned. 18 billion or whatever she gives, John, it's British taxpayers' money. That's the first thing. She's got no cash. It's our taxes. And she's going to hand that over. And that 18 billion could go to British people on needs of our vulnerable people, on education, health, whatever. But instead, she's going to give it in a wheelbarrow to Brussels in the hope that they cut a deal. I mean, it's pathetic. What she should do, which she won't do, is walk away. The best deal is no deal, but she won't accept that. She's another craven Remainer. Her, Philip Hammond, Rambo Rudd, John, you know the gang, all those Remainers, they're the people that are steering this Brexit off the rails, shoveling UK taxpayers' money to Brussels, letting the country down. Well, we won't forget, and we need to make sure that the next opportunity we get at the ballot box, we punish these Remainer Conservatives, led by, in my opinion, Theresa May.
Sadly, I have to agree with you. Great talking to you, David. Thank you very much indeed.